Good evening. Welcome to another fabulous edition of Nightlights TV's San Diego's only conservative talk show, locally produced here in the wonderful county of San Diego. Tonight I'm privileged to have a repeat guest who's been on our program, but it's been a few years. Her name is Dr. Orly Taitz. She is a practicing dentist in Rancho Margarita, California, and she is a lawyer. So she has two hats on her head. Thank you very much, Orly, for joining us tonight at Nightlights TV. It's really
thank you for inviting me.
It's a pleasure having you on our program. Let's talk. There is a lot to talk about. You've got a lot going right now, and you brought up some incredible cases that you're involved in involving the Obama administration and some really alarming fraud cases that involve not only you, but a number of private investigators that you're working with. Why don't you summarize what you've been doing the last few years and get our audience up to date on your progress and where you're going?
Well, one of the aspects of the case, which is absolutely fascinating, is the fact that the person sitting in the White House, Barack Obama, is using a Social Security number that was never assigned to him, a stolen Social Security number. And you might ask, how did we find out? Well, this is the tax return. It's 2009 tax return. If we can do maybe a close-up, so that the audience can see it better. This is 2009 tax return that Barack Obama personally posted, or one of his aides posted on whitehouse.gov, official website of the White House.
So it was officially posted by the Obama administration?
Yes. And you can see what happened is that they did not flatten the PDF file. So multiple layers appeared, and we could see one of the layers, the actual full Social Security numbers. And this is the number that Barack Obama is using, 042684425, and that's Form 709. And I have another form here where we can see his number on the top, 042684425.
And this is something they didn't intend to do, but because they didn't, quote unquote, flatten the file, the number shows.
Exactly.
And it's and you explained that flatten the file means a way to where it wouldn't be totally concealed, where you can, someone that is a computer expert could get to it.
Exactly. And here is E-Verify. You know, that's, there are two governmental agencies that check Social Security numbers of individuals to identify people who are illegal aliens in this country. And this is E-Verify for Barack Obama, and you can see we entered this name and this Barack Obama and the Social Security number that he entered in his tax returns, 042684425. What does it say? SSA record does not verify. And that's not his number. The same thing was done with SSNVS. There are two agencies, one E-Verify, one SSNVS, and it's
same result.
Same result, failed SSNVS. So, I mean, this is frightening because we have a complete fraud sitting in the White House with a bogus Social Security number and a number of corrupt officials and judges criminally complicit in the cover-up.
Well, what's sad about this, Orly, is the fact that you have retired people that were part of state agencies that confirm the fact that how could somebody that was born in the state of Hawaii have a Connecticut Social Security number. You also mentioned there's a possibility that he might have applied for it at a later time. Why don't you go into that a little bit?
Well, what the audience needs to know that until 2011, Social Security numbers were assigned by the state, from the state where the person applied. So Barack Obama's Social Security number was issued in and around March 28, 1977, at which time Barack Obama resided in the state of Hawaii. He was a high school student in the state of Hawaii.
And where did you get that information?
The Social Security number we got from his his own tax return. And the fact that he lived in Hawaii in '77, he was 16 years old. That's his biography. That's his memoirs.
But it's in his memoirs.
Exactly.
He said he talked about getting his first job, and as everyone knows, I have a son that's getting his just got his first job. You have to present a Social Security
exactly.
number.
And so the Social Security number would have been from Hawaii. And this number that he is using starts with 042.
Right.
The first 3 digits signify the state of Connecticut. Barack Obama has no connection to the state of Connecticut, never resided there, absolutely no connection. Further, I worked with a number of licensed investigators. One of them is Neil Sankey, and he is a retired Scotland Yard officer who was in an elite anti-organized crime, anti-communist proliferation unit. Another is Susan Daniels, licensed investigator from Ohio, and also investigator Albert Hendershot from Alabama, and investigator John Simpson, who was a senior deportation officer for some 30 years for ICE. He resides currently in Colorado. Everybody confirmed that the number he's using is the Connecticut number, which there is absolutely no reason or explanation for him to have this number. Further, there are multiple databases that investigators are using, attorneys are using, and in most of those databases, we could find that this number is connected to 2 dates of birth, one in '61, one in 1890. So we can tell that he is using the number of somebody who was born in 1890, who is probably deceased, and either his death was never reported to Social Security Administration. It was reported or was deleted, erased from the database, and the computer database was changed. So we saw 1890, date of birth, but we didn't have the name of the individual. In 2011, the National Census has made public 1940 census results, which were not available until then. At the same time, an investigator by name Albert Hendershot was able to find records from Merlin's information systems showing that showing both Barack Obama and an individual by name Harry Bonnell at the same address that where Barack Obama used to live, 5046 Greenwood Avenue in Chicago, Illinois. And
was that his vested address as far as ownership?
That's, well, the ownership, it's interesting because his property in Chicago, Illinois is owned in a trust, and actually the trust is managed by a judge. Everything is kind of covered up because it's in the trust, but what we can tell that he used the Social Security number of this individual and even his name, Harry Bonnell, in relation to his property in Chicago. Now, the only thing that we needed to tie up is the date of birth of 1890 that we saw in other databases like Choice Point, LexisNexis, and also what we found in Merlin's, his name. And looking through the Ancestry.com, we could find the different census results, and we found that in 1940 there was this individual. There's only one, Harry J. Bonnell, only one in the United States of America with this spelling, B-O-U-N-E-L, only one, luckily. And he resided in 1940 in New York, in Bronx, New York, at 912 Daly Avenue. And he wrote that in 1940 he was 50 years old. Take away 50, we got it. It's a match. We got this last piece of the puzzle, that here is a guy who was born in 1890.
Could you confirm that he was born in Connecticut, though?
No, he was not born in Connecticut.
Oh,
he actually came to this country as an immigrant from Russia. And on the census, and anybody can go, please, go to census.com to either to National Census or to any of the websites that are connected to census.
Well, the reason I asked about Connecticut is the number links back to Connecticut. So wouldn't he have had to have lived there?
Oh yeah,
sometime?
well, no. See, Bronx, New York, and Connecticut, it's next door.
Right.
So what in 1940 he was in New York, and often people from New York move to Connecticut when they retire. They
it's
buy
close, in other words.
Yeah, it's next door.
Right.
They buy property. It's far from Hawaii, but it's next door to Bronx, New York.
Right.
And what we believe that in this number was issued in 1977, and what we found out that in 1976, 1977, there were several new laws issued by the Social Security Administration which required individuals who did not have a Social Security number before, who worked for cash, or women who never had a number, to get a number.
Right.
And that's how we found it. I have filed a legal action. One legal action was filed in District of Columbia, and another was filed in Baltimore, where the Social Security Administration is located. So originally, Social Security Administration, when we asked for information for Harry Bunnell, they stated, we cannot provide you information for Harry Bunnell with this Social Security number 042684425 because of reasons of privacy. However, in 2011, a new law became known to the public. It actually started in 2010, but we found out about it in 2011. And that's a new law of Social Security Administration stating that individuals who were born 120 years ago or earlier are considered to be extremely aged individuals. And for those individuals, you don't need to provide their death certificate. You do not need to provide their consent in order to get their Social Security application. They have to provide it because they're considered to be extremely old. They're not likely to be alive, so there is no harm, and therefore they're supposed to provide their information. And so far, Social Security Administration is just lying. For example, the law specifically states if the person was born 120 years ago, they have to provide information without the death certificate. It's right there, black and white. And I got a response through the attorneys for Carolyn Colvin, who is currently an active chief of Social Security, stating we need a death certificate, which is a complete lie. They don't need it. So this is one aspect that's going on. Another aspect, it has to do with Barack Obama's Selective Service registration.
Yeah.
In order to work for federal government, you have to be registered with Selective Service, and this issue was raised in 2008.
Right, I'm familiar with that.
And
the audience needs to know that if you run for public office, you have to be registered with the Selective Service.
Yes. So former chief investigator of Special Investigations Unit of U.S. Coast Guard, Stephen Jeffrey Kaufman, requested this information. He got this from the Selective Service, and we found out right away that this is a forgery yet again. I mean, it's frightening.
How can you
Yes. Well, one of the things, it's very clear. Look at the stamp. Each and every stamp, U.S. stamp, for the past 100 years or so, always had a 4-digit number. So if it would have been issued in 1980, it would have been 1980. Do you see that this is only 80?
Yeah.
80. 19 is missing. And what Mr. Kaufman stated, and also it was confirmed by Sheriff Joseph Arpaio in Arizona, that what the forger did, he actually used 2008 stamp. He cut it in half and reversed it upside down. So 08 cut in half, so it's got 08, put it upside down, and that's how he got 80. And if you look at it closely, you can see
this was confirmed by
Sheriff Joseph Arpaio from Arizona.
Did he have an investigative team that checked it out?
They checked it, they verified it, but unfortunately they did not file an actual complaint, and that's I wish they would have. But that's the situation.
Right.
So I have filed a complaint.
It does look funny if you look at the stamp.
Exactly. Yes, and actually,
I mean, anyone, if you were to look at this closely, you'd see the way it's funny how it's to the side and it just says 80.
Yeah. I mean, a clear forgery. It's not even a good forgery.
Especially, you know, going back, 30 years ago, it would be more of a complete record.
Absolutely. So what is happening, I submitted a complaint to the